As some of you know, Tales of Symphonia has been my favorite game of all time for over a decade, and I play games that have come close to beating it in terms of that. Persona 4, Super Robot Wars W, Final Fantasy VI, just to name a few. But no game has ever been able to reach that level of just greatness for me personally that Tales of Symphonia is at. And that's not to say Tales of Symphonia is the greatest game I've ever played, it's just my favorite. And part of that is just the experience. And see, Tales of Symphonia has an advantage over most other games and RPGs I've played because of one simple thing. It's an RPG with multiplayer. Just going on an adventure with a couple of friends is much better than going it alone, and part of that experience is just why it has been my favorite game of all time. But now I have finally played a game where the experience is just even above that of what I had with Tales of Symphonia initially. Yes, after 53 hours with the game, I can truly say without a shadow of a doubt that Xenogears is now my favorite game of all time. So what is there to say about Xenogears, or where do I even begin to start? First off, the story and the writing. A lot of people will agree that what makes an RPG what it is the story, with some exceptions like, Pokemon. But a story-driven RPG is what most people play them for. And oh my god, the story in this game. I don't think I've ever come across a story in a video game so interwoven, so complex, but at the same time not hard to follow, and it just grips you from the beginning all the way to the end. And it's funny, Xenogears started out as the concept for Final Fantasy VII, but Square deemed it too dark and too complicated, so they made it a side project. And now we have the game known as Xenogears. While I think it was a bit silly to dismiss the game because of that, the game does have some really dark, immature elements like genocide and pedophilia, just to name a couple. But I like the fact that this is a mature story, it's not kiddie friendly, everyone's happy. And that's part of what drew me in about the game, because too many RPGs nowadays are really just generic anime in video game form. And this was just a breath of fresh air. It's kind of funny saying that because this came out in freaking 1998 and I played it in 2015. But going with that, that is pretty impressive that a game this old impressed me as much as it did. Kind of makes me wonder what my impressions of it would have been if I had played it back in 1998. Probably would have blew my little mind. And while I'm on the topic of the year the game came out, I gotta say the presentation of this game has stood up pretty well against the test of time. Now obviously the graphics are dated, but just the way the game is presented is top notch. It reminds me of Xenoblade Chronicles, which is of course from the same team that made this, where Xenoblade Chronicles had dated textures and everything, but you can still be awed just by the scenery and the scale of everything, and Xenogears does the same exact thing and it does it well. Now as I stated earlier, this isn't your regular anime inspired video game with tropey characters. These characters have layers. They were not tropey in the slightest, except maybe in like one small instance, and they were very, very well written. They have motives, they're dynamic, they have realistic reactions to the things that happen around them in the world, and they're not always likable. And this isn't just the party you control either. Some of these antagonists are really, really well written. They have intrigue, they have mystery, they are relatable once you get to know about them, and they keep you guessing of what their motives are all the way up until the end of the game. Now I imagine some of you are going, well that's all great and all, but how is the gameplay? It is a video game after all. And I gotta say, pretty fun. The game has two main battle systems, one where you're on foot and one where you're fighting in your gears or mechs. While you're on foot, you're basically just inputting combos to get off the highest damage possible while using skills to heal yourself and cast buffs and all that good stuff. And the gear battles were my favorite part, one because you guys know I love mechs, and two because it adds another layer of complexity because you have to manage fuel. And once you're out of fuel, you are pretty much screwed, honestly, because you've regained like 30 fuel a turn if you try to get it back, and that can be gone in another turn. So yeah, fuel management is very, very important. I also kind of like the fact that these mechs, for the most part, aren't just like launching giant beams at each other, they're actually fighting with martial arts and other things that you use in a normal fight. It was kind of interesting since I'm so used to mechs fighting with, guns and lasers. And like I said, that is in here, but for the most part, it's all physical combat. And I gotta say, these are some of my favorite mech designs ever. I mean, just look at some of these. Kinda wish I had held off on making that top 10 mechs video, because Weltall would definitely be on that list now. And you guys know how important my music is in my video games, and thankfully, the music in this game is good, it's fitting, it gets you pumped up at the right moments, it makes you feel somber at the right moments, and it's very memorable. From the same guy that did the soundtrack for Chronicles, and this soundtrack is just wow. Every time that boss theme came on, I was pumped up, ready for a fight, and that's the type of feeling a boss theme should give you. And all the music in this game is just fitting like that, and I gotta say, it's probably one of my favorite OSTs of all time. A big problem people have with the game is the second disc. Apparently they ran out of budget, so they had to cut a lot of stuff, and the game is presented to you from the second disc on as like a storybook in a lot of ways. And personally, I actually did not mind it. Going into the game, I knew about it because people said, oh, the second disc is horrible, oh, it ruined the game. And for me, nope, I actually really liked it. It trimmed a lot of the fat and it kept the story going. And really the only thing that was lost was like exploration in towns, because you only get access to a few towns in the second disc, but you still get like 4 or 5 dungeons, so it didn't bother me in the slightest. Xenogears is an ambitious game with an epic scale that keeps getting higher and higher and higher. For those that have played Xenoblade Chronicles, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the game, by the time the credits rolled, I was sad because I had grown so attached to this lore, to these characters, that I just wanted more. And honestly, I could be here all day praising the game. I just went over the main stuff. I didn't even touch on other things like learning death blows, or all the references to various religions and Freud that the game touches upon. Seriously, you just gotta play this game. It's one of the few games I will gladly call a masterpiece. And the writer of this game is of course the main writer for Xenoblade Chronicles X, so you better believe after this and Xenoblade Chronicles the first game, I am so hyped for that game. My hype was already high, but after seeing what he can do in this, and him stating that he wants to go even further beyond and make Xenoblade Chronicles X his masterpiece, hell yes, I can't wait for that game. And in the meantime, I really need to go play the Xenosaga games. I got like 5 to 10 hours into the first one and just stopped. No real reason, just stopped. But after playing this, I definitely got to go back and play those. Anyways, I just really wanted to talk about this game that I just fell in love with. This wasn't really a review, which is why I didn't touch upon the negative aspects of the game. But yeah, if you haven't played the game, play it. If you have played it, I want to know what you thought in the comments. Were you enthralled as I was? Let me know. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.